In Los Angeles, California, drones replaced fireworks for the first time ever at the city's 4th of July celebration.
The shift from pyrotechnics to high-tech is praised for being greener and safer. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I'm CJ Hero.
And I'm Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. And now for the headlines.
Philippine inflation rate rose anew in June. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. holds his first cabinet meeting and focuses discussion on the country's economic situation. Independence Day mass shooting in Chicago kills 6 and leaves U.S. President Joe Biden shocked. U.S. mega drought spells trouble at Hoover Dam. And TikTok confesses that U.S. data can be accessed by Chinese employees.
The country's inflation rate accelerated to 6.1 in June, the highest since November 2018. The high inflation rate signals the fast-rising prices of commodities and services in the country. Mayan Corvera has the details.
The Philippine inflation rose to 6.4% in June compared to the previous month's 5.4%. The Philippine Statistics Authority says the continued rise in food, fuel, and transport prices accelerated the country's inflation rate. National Statistician Undersecretary Dennis Mapa says, aside from pork, the price of poultry products increased by 8.1%, while an increase in the price of rice was also observed. High fuel costs contributed to the inflation by 8.9%, affecting the prices of commodities as well as fares. Region 3 has logged the highest prices of commodities at 7.5%, while Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or BARM, has the lowest with 3.1%.
Nakikita namin na it's a combination, may supply issue because of problems sa pork, for example, the ASF, and at the same time yung transport concern dahil tumaas na yung presyo ng ating gasoline and diesel at nagkaroon din ng impact dito sa presyo ng mga commodities.
The June inflation rate is higher than the 2 to 4% target range of the government economic team, but within the 5.7 to 6.5% forecast by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Mayan Corvera reporting for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has presided over his administration's first full cabinet meeting. It started before 9 a.m. and lasted several hours. Let's find out from Eden Santos what was discussed at today's cabinet meeting.
Various matters of national interest were discussed in the first cabinet meeting presided by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in the State Dining Hall of Malacanang. Vice President Sara Duterte, also the concurrent Secretary of the Department of Education, led the cabinet in prayer. The President asked the economic team to lead the briefing and give an overview of the country's economic situation. The economic team is composed of Finance Secretary Benjamin Jokno, NEDA Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Arsenio Balisacan, and Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Felipe Medalla.
I think we can all understand that the most important area that we will have to deal with will have to be the economy.
The central policy actually that eventually will be following is that set up by the economic team. But before the economic group's presentation, the live feed from the Facebook page of the Presidential Communications Operations Office was cut. In his first press conference after his inauguration, President Marcos shared what was discussed in the cabinet meeting. He said cabinet officials want to streamline their processes in order to give better service to the people. Marcos added that he's giving cabinet members a free hand in managing their agencies.
As we attend to immediate concerns, we are also trying to streamline the government so its function is better, its function is much more efficient and easier for the public as they have to do business, whatever business they have with the government, that it is easier and simpler and safer and more secure to do. I think that I want to make sure that every department, every agency has already the plan in mind para coordinated naman ang ating cabinet secretaries with each other.
President Marcos said he is eyeing to have a cabinet meeting twice a week for the group to understand what they are trying to do, how they are going to do it, what the timetable is, and how it all fits together. Solicitor General Minardo Guevara told reporters that the meeting started on time and was still going on as of 12 noon. Aside from President Marcos and Vice President Duterte, Executive Secretary Vic Rodriguez also attended the cabinet meeting among others. Eden Santos reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Senate will push for a proposed bill authorizing President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to lower or suspend the value-added tax and the excise tax on petroleum products. A proposal for the automatic suspension of VAT and excise tax on petroleum products if it reached $80 per barrel had been introduced in the Senate. In his proposed bill, Senator Aquilino Pimentel seeks to amend the National Internal Revenue Code. The bill is a reconciled version of Senate Bill 2320 and 2445 and is among Pimentel's 10 priority bills filed in the 19th Congress. For her part, presidential sister and Senator Amy Marcos proposes to authorize the president to lower or suspend the VAT on petroleum products in times of national emergency or state of calamity. Senator Marcos said high inflation has impacted the lives of ordinary Filipinos suffering from the continuous price hikes in fuel and other commodities.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is finding ways to resolve the supply shortage and high prices of agricultural products in the country. More details from Vin Pascua.
Amid the looming food crisis worldwide, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. urges officials of the Department of Agriculture to immediately submit their recommendations to solve the problems faced by the agriculture sector. In his first executive committee meeting as the concurrent secretary of the Department of Agriculture, the president says he is willing to issue an executive order or propose a law if needed based on DA officials' recommendation. The president mentioned that he's looking for not only a short-term fix but also a long-term solution to the expected food crisis.
If there are EOs that you might need, legislation that you might need, you draft them already and you give them to us. On the longer term, we really have to reconstruct, as I said, our value chain, starting from our scientists and our researchers all the way to the Kadiwa store. So we have to remake that model. We have a good model that was from the previous administration, but it's a very different world out there. The technology is very different, and although the concept is still going to be similar, we have to come up with our own 2022 to 2028 to 2030. Do not be hesitant to make it multi-year, because I really don't believe you can do this if you just say 1 year, 3 years, even 6 years, baka kulang. No, we can do it in 6 years. Because we can do this in less than 6 years. I'm pretty sure.
The president has directed DA officials to work on increasing the local production of rice and corn to ensure a sustainable food supply and make their prices more affordable for the Filipinos. In the next 2 quarters, the country is projected to experience the impact of the world food crisis.
We should really pay a very close attention to what we can do. I think what we have, the conclusions we have come to here are that we have to increase our production, and we've talked a little bit about the ways that we can do it. We can increase our production of rice and corn at least, and hopefully I don't know if we have enough time. Pati sa problema ng livestock, ng baboy at saka manok. We'll see. We have to think very hard about making sure that people have sufficient food, number one, at the price that they can afford. Because again, it's useless to have food if they cannot afford it anyway.
Aside from rice and corn, Marcos also wants to ensure stable supplies of fish, meat, poultry, and other agri-products. The president was warmly welcomed by officials and employees at the DA headquarters in Quezon City. Vin Pascua reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Marcos administration is aiming to conduct full face-to-face classes by November. In a press conference after his first cabinet meeting, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said Vice President Sara Duterte, who's also the concurrent education secretary, announced the plan. Marcos says the government will start a phased face-to-face schooling by September and a 100% attendance of children by November. The president also says the government will be preparing for the vaccination requirements as he expects this issue to be raised. The country is administering COVID-19 vaccines to kids ages 5 and up and has recently released guidelines for the rollout of booster shots for minors ages 12 to 17.
The Supreme Court upholds Energy Regulatory Commission's decision to let Manila Electric Company pass additional generation charges on its customers. Voting 6-5, the Supreme Court ruled that ERC did not abuse its discretion. The Supreme Court, in its ruling, says the ERC acted based on the policy of automatic adjustment of generation rate and system loss rates. In December 2013, the ERC allowed Meralco to charge its customers in tranches some 22.64 billion pesos for the purchase of power from the Wholesale Electricity Spot Market, or WESM. The charge was due to the maintenance shutdown of Malampaya.
The House of Representatives is expected to be jam-packed when President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. delivers his first State of the Nation address on July 25. Let's find out why in this report from Vic Sominta.
The House of Representatives will allow a 100% face-to-face attendance at the President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s first State of the Nation address, or SONA, on July 25. Having a 1,200 seating capacity, the Batasang Pambansa Plenary Hall is expected to be filled with 315 congressmen, 24 senators, and members of the diplomatic corps, as well as other VIPs. However, Congress will limit the number of media practitioners that will be given entry into the plenary hall. In an advisory from the House of Representatives Media Bureau, only 30 reporters chosen through draw lots will be allowed inside. The rest can monitor in the designated holding area at the South Wing Annex of the Batasan Complex. North and South Wing will be open for an orderly media coverage of the SONA. Vic Somintak reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Department of Health has allowed all teenagers to get their booster shots to enhance their protection against COVID-19. In an advisory, the DOH says immunocompromised minors between 12 and 17 years old must get their booster jabs 28 days after they completed their primary vaccine series. Registration for the booster vaccine of immunocompromised will be made in medical centers and hospitals. For non-immunocompromised teenagers, they can get their booster shots 5 months after they are fully vaccinated. They can register and get scheduled on websites or online links from their respective local government units. Coming up, 4th of July rooftop shooter kills 6 in a Chicago suburb. President Biden shocked by the shooting. Russia accuses Ukraine of torturing prisoners of war. And face masks in indoor and outdoor spaces back in Peru amid COVID-19 fourth wave. Catch the latest updates on global news only here on Mata ng Agila International.
This portion is
Come on, boy.
You're still watching Mata ng Agila International. A 22-year-old man has been arrested after a mass shooting during an Independence Day parade in Chicago left 6 people dead and 24 others wounded. The suspect has been identified as Robert Crimo III. He was picked up Monday after a massive manhunt. Earlier, police warned that Crimo was armed and very dangerous. The shooting happened in the wealthy Chicago suburb of Highland Park. The gunman, believed to be on a rooftop, fired into a holiday crowd watching a parade. As gunshots rang out, panicked spectators fled, leaving behind chairs, balloons, and personal belongings. Witnesses say at first they thought it was fireworks. About 100 police and federal agents converged on the scene. Some of the injured, including children, are in critical condition.
U.S. President Joe Biden voiced his shock at the latest mass shooting in Illinois. Biden vowed to keep fighting what he called the epidemic of gun violence sweeping the country. In his Independence Day speech, he also said he believed the U.S. was more united than divided.
I know many Americans look around today and see a divided country and are deeply worried about that fact. I understand, but I believe we're more united than we are divided. Even more, I believe it's a choice we make, and I believe it's within our power to choose unity and unity of purpose.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has congratulated Russian troops for achieving victory in Ukraine's Luhansk region. In a meeting televised by Russian state media, Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu reported to Putin the Russian advances in the area. Shoigu added that the Gorsky Koldron area, Lysychansk and Severodonetsk were surrounded within 2 weeks, and the Ukrainian army allegedly lost 5,469 soldiers in the battles. Putin told Shoigu that the military personnel who contributed to the fighting in LPR will be rewarded for their bravery and that they should now rest.
Until now, as per your proposal to award General Colonel Lapin, the head of the group center, and the deputy of the commander of the 8th Army of the South District, to award them Hero of Russia titles. I agree with that. I will sign the relevant decree today. And I would like to instruct you to award all the military officers who excelled during the military activities. From your daily reports, I know that in Russian army, there are a lot of highly professional, brave soldiers.
The Russian president urged other military units, including the East and West military groups, to fulfill their tasks according to the previously suggested plan. Putin added that he is hoping that everything will be successful as it happened in the Luhansk area.
Russia said it was investigating the torture of Russian soldiers held prisoner in Ukraine and recently released as part of a prisoner swap with Kyiv in late June.
Следственный комитет России устанавливает обстоятельства применения пыток в отношении российских военнослужащих на Украине. Подробности бесчеловечного обращения известны из рассказов военных, которые были возвращены на территорию России в результате обмена пленными с украинской стороной.
Last week, Moscow and Kyiv exchanged 144 prisoners of war each, the biggest exchange since the start of Moscow's Ukraine campaign on February 24. The Russian investigative committee said Moscow's soldiers told investigators about the violence they had suffered. According to its statement, one of the soldiers said Ukrainian medics treated him without anesthetic and that he was beaten, tortured with electricity in captivity. Another soldier said he was allegedly left without food and water for days.
Каждый из таких рассказов вернувшихся военнослужащих изобилует примерами того, как украинские националисты нарушают требования Женевской конвенции, запрещающие жестокое обращение с военнопленными, их пытки и истязания. Российские следователи дадут правовую оценку каждому такому случаю и установят причастных к этим фактам лиц.
Ukraine tells an international conference it will cost an estimated $750 billion to rebuild the war-shattered country. President Volodymyr Zelensky says it was the shared duty of the democratic world. Following the first day of the Ukraine Recovery Conference in Switzerland, President Zelensky says his country's reconstruction has to begin now.
Коли говорять про відбудову, часто некоректно розставляють акценти. Це ж не тільки про те, що маємо зробити після нашої перемоги або в наступні роки, але й те, перш за все, що потрібно робити вже просто зараз. Українські сили звільнили від окупантів більше 1000 населених пунктів щотижня. А ще потрібно готувати школи, готувати університети до нового навчального року. На всій вільній території країни і в нових умовах постійної загрози, зокрема ракетних ударів. Треба вже готуватися до зими і зробити все, щоб ми пройшли цю зиму спокійно з точки зору енергетики, попри будь-які загрози, які створює щоденно Росії.
Millions of gallons of Colorado River hurtle through the Hoover Dam every day to generate electricity for hundreds of thousands of homes. But a mega drought desiccating the western U.S. is sending reservoir levels plummeting toward dead pool. Public Affairs Officer for the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, Patricia Aaron, says this means less efficiency for water power.
We're in our 23rd year of drought here in the Colorado River Basin, and so Lake Mead has dropped down to 28%. So there isn't as much head, so there isn't as much pressure pushing on the water into the turbines. So they have to work harder, so there's less efficiency, and we aren't able to produce as much power.
Aaron says at an elevation of 950 feet above sea level, Hoover Dam can no longer produce hydropower. It is at 1,043 feet today.
Rescuers warned Monday that hope of finding survivors is diminishing after an avalanche set off by a glacier collapse in the Italian Alps swept over a popular hiking trail. Authorities don't know how many people were in the area when the disaster struck. Ice and rock thundered down the slope at 300 kilometers an hour. On Monday, rescuers used thermal drones to search for body heat from potential survivors trapped in the ice. 7 bodies have been recovered. 8 people are recovering from their injuries. Helicopters and sniffer dogs were called off as night fell amid fears the glacier may still be unstable. Higher than normal temperatures are blamed for weakening the glacier and causing it to collapse.
An update on the flooding in Australia's New South Wales state. 3 days of torrential rain has pelted Australia's east coast with nearly a meter of water. Sydney is bearing the brunt of the storm. Thousands of people fled their homes as rising water spilled from the city's largest dam. At one point, about 32,000 people were under evacuation orders. Emergency workers say they have rescued more than 140 people since the stormy weather began. The Army dispatched 100 troops to help with the rescue operations. Many of those rescued had been trapped in their cars trying to cross flooded roads, while others were unable to leave their houses, which were surrounded by rising water. With rain expected to ease over the next day, some residents of Western Sydney have been allowed to return home.
Peru, the country with the highest mortality rate from COVID-19, reintroduces the mandatory use of masks. An increase in COVID infections has made the country enter the 4th wave of the pandemic. Peru's Health Minister George Lopez says the mandatory mask-wearing order applies to any environment, whether indoor or outdoor. Lopez also mentioned the 15 monkeypox cases in the country that are currently being monitored.
Coming right up, residents of Cuba's capital fear 700 buildings could collapse at any time. Eiffel Tower is reportedly riddled with rust and in need of repairs. And TikTok admits employees in China can access U.S. user data. Mata ng Agila International will be right back after this short break.
Season 3 na! Tuloy ang tawanan, kasiyahan, surprise! Pasensya namin. Ano ba yung tsura mo? Hold up ako. Laugh free. Kaya ko umiyak on you.
Sa pelikulang ginawa mo, meron kang nakaaway na artista. Anong nangyari?
Now! Ano?
Hello po, this is Enzo Pineda at plus pogi points talaga kapag marunong kang magluto ng recovery food para sa mga mahal mo sa buhay.
malapit na. Ngayong Sabado, alas 10 ng umaga. Kita-kits!
And we're back with more news here on Mata ng Agila International. The United States concluded that Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh was likely killed by Israeli gunfire and urged accountability, but said there was no reason to believe she was shot intentionally. The statement came after a team of U.S. forensic and ballistics experts examined the bullet, which was given to them by Palestinian officials. Abu Akleh held U.S. citizenship and was one of the best-known Palestinian journalists. She was fatally shot despite wearing a vest that said press while covering an Israeli army operation. Her death provoked a furor, with the Palestinian Authority alleging she was shot intentionally in what amounted to a war crime. These charges were angrily denied by Israel. Both sides granted full access to their own probes over the past several weeks. The U.S. State Department also said their expert team could not make a definitive conclusion on the origin of the bullet that killed the journalist on May 11. Spokesman Ned Price clarified in a statement that ballistic experts determined the bullet was badly damaged, which prevented a clear conclusion. Following the release of the U.S. analysis, Abu Akleh's family sharply criticized the results of the probe, saying they were incredulous over the expert team's findings.
The report published today by the U.S. State Department is not enough. On the contrary, it does not hold Israel accountable. Merely, it just covers up and uses the same argument that Israel has been using for the past weeks.
An Israeli Army Lieutenant Colonel also said they are committed to finding the truth about Abu Akleh's death.
We will continue the examination and investigation into Ms. Abu Akleh's death, using all available means at our disposal, and remain committed to getting to the truth.
A resident in one of about 700 apartment buildings deemed unsafe in the Cuban capital says when they sleep, she fears not waking up again. Collapses are frequent in Havana. In 2020, a balcony gave way, killing 3 young girls. This year, the first rains of June caused 146 buildings in the capital to partially crumble. 2 have come down completely, killing a 69-year-old man. Old Town, state-owned buildings like the Edificio Cuba that date from the 1940s sport over 100 small rooms. They house dozens of families rent-free. The Edificio Cuba used to be an elegant hotel. Today, the floor planks are broken. The ceilings, columns and passageway walls reveal twisted metallic skeletons, and cracks and leaks abound. Official figures show that about 37% of 3.9 million residential buildings in the country have been considered to be in an undesirable state by the end of 2020.
Sudan school leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan announced the army would make way for a civilian government. It would not be participating in the national talks facilitated by the UN and regional blocs. Burhan said the decision was taken to make room for political and revolutionary forces and other national fictions or factions to form a civilian government.
مشاركة المؤسسة العسكرية في المفاوضات الجارية حاليا والتي تسهلها الآلية الثلاثية وذلك لإفساح المجال للقوى السياسية والثورية والمكونات الوطنية الأخرى من الجلوس وتشكيل حكومة.
Burhan also said that after the formation of the executive government, the Sovereignty Council will be dissolved and a Supreme Council of the Armed Forces and Rapid Support will be formed. The said units will then assume the supreme command of the regular forces and be responsible for the country's security and defense. Burhan's televised announcement surprised anti-coup demonstrators, hundreds of whom were on the fifth day of sit-in protests after Thursday's uprising, which was Sudan's deadliest violence so far this year.
Spanish police have seized 3 underwater drones capable of transporting large quantities of drugs from Morocco to Spain. Officers seized 3 so-called drone submarines and arrested 8 people. Spanish police said it was the first time they had seized such unmanned underwater vehicles, or UUVs. According to a statement, the 3 drones were to be delivered to French drug traffickers for transporting large quantities of cocaine. Each one could carry up to 200 kilograms. The police also seized several large aerial drones with 12 motors each and a range of 30 kilometers, which is more than enough to cross the 15-kilometer strait between Spain and Morocco.
The Eiffel Tower is riddled with rust and in need of full repairs, but instead, the famous landmark is just being given a cosmetic €60 million paint job ahead of the 2024 Olympics Games in Paris. This was according to confidential reports cited by French magazine Marianne. The wrought iron 324-meter high tower was built by Gustave Eiffel in the late 19th century and is a technological masterpiece in building construction history. The tower is among the most visited tourist sites in the world, welcoming about 6 million people or visitors each year. But confidential reports by experts cited by Marian suggest the popular monument is in poor state and riddled with rust. One unnamed manager told Marian that if Gustave Eiffel visited the tower, he would have a heart attack. Marian said some 30% of the tower was supposed to have been stripped and then have 2 coats applied, but delays to the work caused by the COVID pandemic and the presence of LED in the old paint means only 5% will be treated. Société d'Exploitation de la Tour Eiffel, the company that oversees the tower, is reluctant to close it for a long time because of the tourist revenue that would be lost. Other news reports said SETE could not be immediately reached for comment.
Tugboat and helicopter teams have been deployed to rescue 21 crew members who are stranded on the cargo ship off the coast of Australia. The vessel got into trouble after it lost power and risked being swept ashore to the nearby cliffs of Sydney. The Westpac Lifesaver Rescue helicopter was dispatched and attempted to hoist the cargo ship's crew to safety, but they were unable to do so. 2 tugboats have been able to help and have steered the ship back out to sea. Australia has been at the sharp end of climate change, with droughts, deadly bushfires, bleaching events on the Great Barrier Reef, and floods becoming more common and intense as global weather patterns change.
Argentinian peso depreciated sharply against the dollar on the black market as the first reaction to Silvina Bataki's replacing Martin Guzman as the economy minister. On the informal foreign exchange market, the Argentine currency closed at 267 pesos to the US dollar, moderating its initial depreciation when it touched 280 pesos, compared to 239 pesos last Friday, July 1. Batakis and the head of the central bank, Miguel Peche, agreed on the need to advance in the deepening of the development of the capital market. They share the importance of continuing to work on a sustainable fiscal program. The new minister will have to battle runaway inflation that is projected above 60% for this year, amid the demands for fiscal adjustment agreed with the International Monetary Fund after refinancing in March a debt of about $44,500 million.
After previously denying that the personal data of American users is accessible to China-based employees, TikTok has now admitted that it, in fact, is igniting calls for the Chinese-owned platform to face a congressional hearing. Senator Marsha Blackburn claimed TikTok tried to shroud their work in secrecy, while Australian Senator James Patterson has demanded answers about the security of Australian users' data, which is stored on U.S. servers. Among the revelations TikTok made to senators was Beijing's acquisition of a stake in parent company ByteDance last year. But Xu Zichu, the company's CEO, clarified that user data shared with China-based employees is subject to a series of robust cybersecurity controls and authorization approval protocols overseen by a U.S.-based security team. TikTok's confession comes shortly after Brendan Carr, a Republican member of the Federal Communications Commission, asked Google and Apple to remove TikTok from their app stores over concerns that the app could share with China data of Americans.
As international tourists plan summer travel, millions of tons of stinky brown algae threaten Mexico's post-COVID tourism rebound. Sargassum gives a brown tint to crystal clear waters of Mexico's beaches and fills the air with a rotten egg smell. Last month, it reached an all-time monthly high in the Caribbean region, according to the University of South Florida. The 24.2 million tons recorded in June was up from May's 18.8 million tons. Spanish financial institution BBVA warns that the boom in sargassum poses a significant threat to Mexico's post-pandemic tourism recovery, particularly in Quintana Roo state, which is home to oceanfront destinations like Cancun, Tulum, and Playa del Carmen. Since 2011, algae in Quintana Roo and across the Caribbean have exploded for reasons scientists do not yet fully understand. Researchers blame multiple factors, including climate change, human sewage, agricultural runoff, and dust blowing west from the Sahara Desert. Next on Mata ng Agila International. Drones replace fireworks at the 4th of July celebration in Los Angeles, California. India bans service charge at hotels and restaurants. And NBA teams showcase young talents in California Classics. These and more stories from around the world when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Pilipinas at saan mang panig ng mundo, ihanda na ang shopping list nyo dahil narito na ang online shopping show kung saan ang hanap nyo, meron dito. Narito na ang Shopping All the Way with Jojo A. Eat na hit? We have it! May sayawan, tawanan, pati naiyakan. Pati pets nyo mag-i-enjoy dito. But wait, there's more. Dahil pati celebrity sellers, makikipag-online selling din. At hindi lang yan, dahil may chance kayong makabili ng collectible items mula sa inyong mga paboritong artista. Kaya what are you waiting for? Add to cart na! Shopping All the Way with Jojo A. Opening soon sa Net 25.
Abangan sa Lutong Daza.
Pagkain pampalakas.
Mga recipes na dapat alam natin lahat para maalagaan natin ang husto ang mga mahal natin sa buhay.
Chicken sotanghon soup, arroz caldo, chicken sopas, honey lemon salamati. Bata-bata, makalimutin lang.
Kasama natin ang ating special guest, ang gwapong-gwapo na si Enzo Pineda na siguradong magpapasaya sa ating lahat. Kita-kits sa Lutong Daza.
Season 3 na! Tuloy ang tawanan, kasiyahan, surprise!
Ito pasaya sa handa namin. Ano ba yung tsura mo? Hold up ako.
Laugh trip. Kaya ko umiyak on cue.
Sa pelikulang ginawa mo, meron kang nakaaway na artista. Anong nangyari?
Now! Ano?
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. After the illegal firework buyback event in Los Angeles, the city celebrates the 4th of July with a safe and fun drone light show and festival. In Lakeview Terrace, California, Alin Basalyahe with the details.
For this Independence Day celebration, the City of Los Angeles Council District 7 has sponsored a drone light presentation for residents looking to take in 4th of July festivities without all the boom and thunder of traditional fireworks shows.
Today we're hosting a 4th of July celebration, but we're doing it with a twist. In lieu of traditional pyrotechnics, we're using drones to help really celebrate the 4th of July in a more environmentally sensitive manner. Pyrotechnics have a lot of environmental impacts to the air quality, but also to the immense fire danger that we already have because of the drought conditions. This is a community that has endured 3 major wildfires, and so I wanted to do something a little bit different. And these drones are going to project not just iconic imagery that I think people can celebrate as a love letter to Los Angeles, but also just to be able to celebrate some of the iconic figures that have come from our community that are going to be captured in this presentation.
Oh, this is a big show. Typically what people are saying, depending on budgets, it's anywhere from 150 to 200 drones. What we're doing here is super special. What we have here is a field of 400 drones of awesomeness. From the creative side, we're able to give a customer a lot more from a storyboard standpoint and give them many more visuals that a firework display can never do.
This was my reaction. So cool. The drone light show was very cool, and it looked like it was just like a screen with like colors on it.
When I think about drone, is like I just think the overhead recording and stuff. So to see the drones being synchronized like that, like it was just really awesome to me. Even my daughter was like that. She was like, they probably like rehearsed this a lot, and because it leaves you wondering, like, did they practice? Like, it was really good.
Now, we did notice that there were more four-legged visitors to this event than at those with loud fireworks shows. Pet owners tell us that they look forward to more 4th of July celebrations that take into account those that are hearing sensitive. Alan Basoyahe, Mata ng Agila International, Lakeview Terrace, California. Trusted, connected, on point.
A court has ruled that food giant Kellogg's will not be allowed to promote sugary cereals in supermarket special offers. In-store promotions on food and drink high in fat, salt, or sugar will be restricted under new rules for England. The company had taken the government to court, arguing the rules did not take into account the nutritional value of added milk. However, the Royal Court of Justice decided in favor of the government, saying Kellogg's cereals do not come with instructions for preparation, which say they should be consumed with milk. Judge Mr. Justice Linden said he found no unfairness to Kellogg's, and the public health case for the new rules was compelling, proportionate, and rational. Kellogg said it was disappointed with the ruling of the court. Kellogg UK Managing Director Chris Silcock lamented that it makes little sense that other products like donuts and chocolate spreads can be bought on promotion, but not many types of breakfast cereals. On the other hand, the Department of Health and Social Care said it strongly welcomed the judgment, as location promotion restrictions were expected to deliver more than £57 billion of health benefits. A spokesperson said the recent court's decision and government regulation will protect children up and down the country from products high in saturated fat, sugar, or salt.
India's Consumer Protection Authority banned hotels and restaurants from levying a service charge on bills. The government's order came after authorities said there had been an increase in complaints by customers being forced to pay the charge. Restaurants often add a 5% to 15% tip to a customer's bill under a service charge category. However, new rules say restaurants can no longer add service charge by default or automatically to the bill. The new guidelines also bar restaurants from collecting tips from customers under any other name or deny service or entry to customers who refuse to pay a tip. The guidelines also say that consumers can lodge their complaints online or through the National Consumer Helpline. Last month, the National Restaurant Association of India, which represents more than 500,000 restaurants, defended the practice of service charge or tips, saying it was a matter of individual policy and levying such a charge was not illegal. But the government said that people could use their discretion on whether or not to leave a tip, and that extra charges without the consumer's or the customer's consent are tantamount to unfair trade practice.
Now news from the NBA. In San Francisco, several teams showcased their rookie and sophomore players in the 4th Annual California Classic. Our correspondent Mark Barranco was there on the first day of the tournament.
We are here today at the Chase Center for the 4th Annual California Classic, where the LA Lakers, Miami Heat, Sacramento Kings, and hometown Golden State Warriors will be playing in a 3-day tournament where they'll be showcasing their rookie and sophomore players as they will try to earn a spot on the main roster and to potentially earn a contract to play with one of the 4 NBA teams. Other NBA scouts will also be here in attendance to potentially scout for any new talent they can add to their team. The first game of the California Classic started off with the Miami Heat versus the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers took a commanding 51-27 lead in the first half and did not stop the breaks entering the second half, with a final score of 100-66 in favor of the Los Angeles Lakers. Mac McClung off the bench led the team in scoring that day with 17 points on 5 of 9 shooting, and was aggressive at getting to the basket with 4 trips to the line, converting on all but one of his free throw attempts. On the other end, Miami's new rookie, Nikola Jovic, and cast struggled to get the offense rolling, with Jovic only going 1 for 6 from the field while tallying 3 points all game, and his team going 23 for 82 from the field. The second game of the California Classic was with the Sacramento Kings, featuring their 4th overall pick in the 2022 NBA Draft, small forward Keegan Murray, going against the hometown Golden State Warriors. The Warriors kept things close with the Kings during the first half, with a score of 38-32 in favor of the Kings. However, in the second half, Sacramento got on a run, led by Keegan Murray's 8-point run with 7 minutes left in the third quarter, and sealed the game with a score of 86-68 in favor of the Sacramento Kings. Teams across the league today now know the talent that these young NBA players have, wanting to make their dreams come true. Mark Marenko, Madonna Agila International, San Francisco, California. Trusted, connected, on point.
World Cup host Qatar doesn't just have its sights set on football. It also hopes to harness its people's gaming skills as it launches into the burgeoning esports sector. A digital army is at the ready in the gas-rich emirate, where many matchless rooms, communal gathering places attached to homes, have long doubled as video game hubs for groups of friends, mostly young men.
And this game represents the first international tournament in Qatar that is a part of the Smash World Tour ecosystem, which is basically a worldwide series of tournaments that happen all over the world. And this tournament specifically, which is the Virtuosity Smash Open, is the first tournament from that ecosystem in the Middle East and in Qatar, of course, specifically.
So my goal is to see Qatar be a leader in the Middle East, and of course a world leader too when it comes to gaming. I want to see the biggest tournaments happen here.
Majlis, or like Majlis, it is like a small kind of place. It's not an apartment, it's not a home. Called it a Majlis. It is near your home or inside your home. And friends gather, play, compete against each other.
Virtuo City is part of Qatar's broad push to diversify its economy away from energy by 2030. It aims for a slice of the fast-growing global esports market, whose annual revenues are estimated at more than $1 billion.
From alternative comfort food to grown-up twists and tastes from around the globe, hundreds of specialty foods await not only adventurous palates, but also those that look for trendy flavors. In New York, Joy Ann Andres reports.
The Fancy Food Show in New York showcases more than 1,800 specialty food companies presenting the latest in international foods, beverages, cheese, chocolate, snacks, sweets, and deli. The Specialty Food Association behind this show is the leading trade organization for the $175 billion specialty food industry. Some top foods identified on their 2022's TrendSpotter radar are pasta and pizza sauces, alternative comfort food, grown-up flavor twists, tastes from around the globe, everything bagel everywhere, and chocolate change-ups.
When we first started, we were just selling pure regular honey, which is great. But once we started 2 years ago by blending flavors to the same honey, then this really took off. We have 14 different flavors, something for everybody.
We make Papadelic's crunchy mushroom chips, which are shiitake mushrooms reimagined for the modern superfood snacker. And so they're super crunchy in texture like a chip. And I think the time has come where not only are mushrooms kind of the side dish, it's time for them to be the main dish.
My mother is the one who created this recipe. It's been in the making for the past 30 years. A lot of people don't know what a pupusa is, you know? And so it's been very interesting to kind of like share something that I grew up with as like my daily meal with others.
What is it about the everything bagel trend that just seems so exciting to people?
I think that it's the combination of all of the flavors, because you got poppy, you have onion, you have garlic.
Are you New York based?
We're not. We're very close though. We're in Philadelphia, and we do sell to a lot of bagel shops and restaurants and cafes in New York City.
Amazing. I'm glad that New York is really accepting.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
I feel like that's like you passed. You passed.
We did. We have passed the New York bagel test. Yeah.
Keep an eye out for these exciting food trends coming soon to you. Joyanne Andres, Matandang Agila International, New York, New York. Trusted, connected, on point.
And now here are key events that happened in history on this day. In 1992, Philippine President Fidel Ramos opened 2 Malacanang extension offices, one in Cebu and the other in Davao. It was part of his campaign promise to make the seat of power accessible in the Visayas and Mindanao. Located in the capital city, Malacanang Palace is the official residence of the President of the Philippines, which also houses the Malacanang Museum and the Presidential Museum. In 1994, Amazon.com was founded in Bellevue, Washington by Jeff Bezos. While Amazon.com famously started as a bookseller, Bezos contended from its start that the site did not merely retail consumer products, but also simplify online transactions for consumers. And in 2003, the World Health Organization declared that severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, had already been contained worldwide. The first cases likely appeared in China's Guangdong province in November 2002. And in the months after that, SARS killed about 775 people in 29 countries. The major symptoms are initially flu-like and in some cases involve headaches, diarrhea, stiffness, rash, confusion, and loss of appetite. SARS is now known to be caused by the SARS coronavirus. A coronavirus is also responsible for COVID-19 and some cases of the common cold.
And here's a quote from French author François de la Rochefoucauld. Few people have the wisdom to prefer the criticism that would do them good to the praise that deceives them.
We all just want to hear good things, don't we?
Exactly. They're not ready for criticism.
And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I'm CJ Harrow.
And I'm Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.